All right, good morning, Nowata County. It is Thursday, December 2nd, and it's a beautiful day here in Oklahoma in December. And with us today via Zoom is our guest, Leslie Gamble with AAA Oklahoma.
Good
All
morning.
right, good morning. And we'll be right back. Our mission is to promote strategies and policies which ensure improved health for all citizens of Nowata County. All right, we're back. So, good morning, Leslie. It's great that you joined us. So happy to have you here.
Thanks. Glad to come to Nowata County.
Sure,
Soon.
sure. This is our kind of test run with Zoom this time. So, I so far so good,
Yes.
but hopefully our internet is okay. Anyway, I guess we just need to get started. Crystal, if you wanted to.
I've asked Leslie to come
Yep.
join us via Zoom since she's in Oklahoma City because December is National Drunk and Drug Driving Month. So with AAA, Leslie has lots of statistics and some information. We've got some questions for her later on. Leslie, I'll just let you kind of take it and introduce yourself. And
Okay. I'm Leslie Gamble, and I'm with AAA Oklahoma. And I do a lot of community engagement type things related to traffic safety to provide protection and to help save lives across our state. And you're certainly right about the dangers being significant for drunk and drug driving as we enter the holiday season. Last year, there were nearly 4,000 crashes in our state that were alcohol or drug related.
Wow.
So that means that those that were driving after the crash were identified as being impaired or drunk or under the influence of drugs, which can be, everything from marijuana to a prescription drug that causes drowsiness to illicit drugs. So it's a big problem. One of the things that we have seen this last year in 2020 was that the number of very serious, fatal, so deadly crashes was actually higher by those who were identified as just drug impaired. So not alcohol in their system per se, but under the influence of drugs. We lost 255 Oklahomans on our roads last year
Wow.
that were under the influence of drugs. And then, not insignificantly, 176 people who were alcohol impaired, so who had been drinking, and then got behind the wheel of a car. So that's some of the statistics. And of course, when we get into our holiday season, it brings out the good and the bad in us in terms of parties and sometimes alcohol and drugs are part of that.
Right. Well, and this time of year, I mean, you think about it, November and December, we're out having a good time. We're seeing family and friends. We've got parties that we're traveling back and forth to, and we're just having a good time. We're not necessarily thinking about the risks, and what we're doing is putting others in danger. So.
That's right. There is nothing that we do on a daily basis that's more dangerous than driving.
Mm-hmm.
It's risky. It just is. And we often, though, engage in driving. We get in our vehicles without a thought, we're almost in a passive mode and just on autopilot, if you will, when we get in there. And we're not thinking before we drive about what's really required that we maybe take for granted in terms of driving. This goes for the most experienced driver to the person that's just been driving a year or so. It is a very powerful, obviously, mechanical system, and you talk about the speeds that we drive on our roads. It's can be high risk, even if you're by yourself. Crashes occur, and nobody wakes up in the morning thinking, I'm going to have a car crash today, right? Nobody intends for that to happen. And that's why, especially as we're talking about drinking, alcohol, utilizing drugs during the holidays, it's so important to have a plan. You're going to go out with friends that night, you're going to go to a party. You need to have a plan in mind. And think about that. And someone in your group needs to be the designated driver. They need to be a person who is willing to have the non-alcohol drinks at the party, and understands that's a important responsibility, knows they can have fun too, but is willing to take that responsibility. Unless you have plans to spend the night where you are and stay there, which is another option for those that can do that, you don't want to be taking a chance behind the wheel of a car.
Sure. Absolutely. And that really comes into play, especially in our rural areas where we don't have Uber or Lyft or one of those, or hotels that we could stay at. So definitely that plan comes into place.
So, Leslie, just for general information, how does AAA work? What are the steps? I know people call AAA when they have an accident or something with their car, but could you just give us just the general rundown?
Oh, sure. AAA is a membership organization. It's an association, so most people don't necessarily think of it that way. But it was started to just help motorists who wanted to have good road conditions, who wanted to be able to travel safely. So it started in our state over 100 years ago. So you know how much cars have changed in 100 years. Not even the same thing. So at the beginnings, it was more about getting good signs on the road, establishing speed limits. Now, as in our role, we work in traffic safety related to helping teenagers become smart drivers as they're learning to drive and not taking chances, as we've mentioned, with alcohol and drugs. Understanding that there's really about a 5-year learning curve to driving. And so
that is interesting.
It is in order to encounter all the types of experiences that might occur, whether they be certain types of weather driving or conditions with heavy traffic. It's going to be about that long of driving before you've gotten into a real groove that is, your best driving level. So we have that, and we offer programs for teens that are geared at helping avoid everything from distracted and impaired driving to just the basics of learning to drive. And then we also have things for the other end of the spectrum of life. So sometimes seniors lose the vision capabilities. Driving at night can be extra taxing on senior eyes. There need to be cautions taken because reaction times often slow as we get older, and we have to make concessions for that and plans for that. So I think our organization is really about safety on our roads, helping people be safe. We do offer services that come and help people on the roadside should they have a breakdown. And that in itself is quite a risky job because people zoom by and don't necessarily move over, and they see vehicles with flashing lights on the side of the road. And we want to always encourage people to do that. Sure. But that's a little bit about what we do. We also advocate at the Capitol for traffic safety laws here in our state. And, we just advise everyone, do the right things when you're getting into drive. Buckle up. That will save your life 50% of the time in terms of the risk of dying. 50% of those who would have died in a car crash are saved if they're buckled up. So that's a very just basic item that sometimes, especially in our pickups, we think we've got a big vehicle and we're not that conscious of the need to buckle up. So with that, there's all of that kind of thing in addition to just what we're talking about today. Nobody intends to hurt others usually with this type of thing, but we have to remember that there are others in cars on the roads. In terms of using alcohol, I think that sometimes we underestimate the impact on us. We don't feel necessarily like we're different. Same with use of marijuana, but there's nothing but time that can help you to be sober enough to drive. And it takes about an hour to burn an average alcoholic beverage. So, again, as we talked earlier about people that are hosting parties, cut it off. Yeah. Cut it off an hour before you want to see everybody hit the road. Mm-hmm. Be a good host and make sure those, as they're leaving, are in good shape to drive.
In reality, a host could be held responsible for an accident.
Absolutely.
I'm just going to bring it back to what one of our friends said, that she was involved in a bad car wreck. Actually, it was a fatality accident. She was the only one one of the ones that survived.
Yeah.
But if you feel different, you drive different. So it's just kind of a motto that we try to stick to, and whether it's, like you said, alcohol or drugs.
It's everybody's responsibility, and I think that if you're with your friends, you can tell if others are acting different. You can tell if things are maybe not quite as sharp as they should be, and we got to help each other. Again, we need to have someone who plans to be the voice of reason, who's going to be that designated driver or the person that says, not tonight, not you behind the wheel. Let's have your keys. Let's find someone else that can drive home. It's so important, and it's life-saving, life-changing for those who are involved in these kinds of crashes. And so we just can't take these kinds of risk during such a happy time of year. We want it to end with happiness for all.
Absolutely.
All right. Yeah. Well, Leslie, if you have anything else to add, anything you can think of? We covered it.
We've covered a lot.
Yep.
We did.
Yeah.
Okay.
We did. We're as we go into the actual Christmas and New Year's weekend, there's no more important time to be vigilant about these things, to really be thinking about the driving impact. We have so many other things on our minds at this time of year, and yet this is something that is the most important thing we do in terms of risk to our lives. Although we know we want to get to wherever we're going this holiday season, we want to have that fun, but we just need to be very smart and have a great plan before you go.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you for coming on and joining us from Oklahoma City. So,
yep. All right.
Glad to do it.
All right.
Let's talk again sometime.
Yes, sounds great.
Thank you, Leslie. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
We'll see you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.